everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I want to kind of go over the 10 dark fantasy romances that I absolutely love. Now, of course, this is current as of September of 2022 because every year it seems like one or two books come out from authors that maybe I knew or I didn't know, and they seem to blow my mind, and I end up, taking one off my list, putting another one on. It's kind of ever changing. There's maybe like one or two that have been on here for several years. But then there's also some new ones as of just even last month that I added on here that I loved. So I just wanted to go over the 10 that I love the most. Not in any necessary order, so it doesn't mean that the very first one is the least one that I like, or the last one I talk about is the most that I like, but just kind of in order as I was looking through my shelves and kind of thinking back on all these different books that I like. I will briefly touch on each book. I'll kind of go over some tropes and a little bit of trigger warnings, but I do highly suggest that if you want to read any of these books that are on this list, definitely check trigger warnings, like the full list that's either on the author's page, inside the book, on Amazon listed, or even on Goodreads. Definitely check those out because there are some that have pretty dark themes in them, and I don't want them to trigger you if any of those will. So the first one that I have up is I don't own a physical copy, but it is the Bonds That Tie series by J. Bree. Now, the very first book is really, really good, but as you progress throughout the series, it is so spicy, so good, and so deliciously dark. Basically, it's about Ollie, who is on the run from her bonded mates after a traumatic experience that she had. Her powers had manifested, and she is wanting to keep them hidden. Kind of for their own sake, I guess, trying to protect them in a way, is kind of how I'm getting it out of the whole series. But after 5 years, she is caught, found, brought back to her bonded mates, and they are like, why did you make us look like a fool? So it has slow burn, very, very slow burn in the first book. If you want to just completely explode whenever you read, finally, whenever the first experience happens, this book will give you that slow burn. It's a paranormal fantasy romance. It is a reverse harem. It is a dark romance. Some of the trigger warnings, there is violence, there is bullying, there is sexual assault. So, like I said, make sure that you check those trigger warnings before you read them. The next one I actually own a copy of. Now, it is a special edition, so this is not what it looks like, but it is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, and this is the Owl Crate edition. It is signed. I absolutely love this series. It's been on there for a few years now. I don't know if it's ever going to get knocked off, but it is about a human named Jude who, her parents are killed by a fae male who comes in and takes both of their daughters to the fairy realm, and basically like raises them in the fae world. And so they're brought up from a very young age, and whenever they are going to school with the fae, there's a guy named Carden, Prince Carden. He is one of the princes of the king, and basically Carden is just atrocious. He's a bully, he is just mean, all of these things in the first book, but boy, does Carden get so much better in the second book. So it is an enemies to lovers. There is bullying. There is violence. Just make sure you check trigger warnings. I would want to say that this is on the lighter side in my perspective, but I don't know how you would feel for any of that. But if you want a fantasy romance that's not super heavy on the romance and has a lot of fantasy plot, then definitely pick up the Cruel Prince trilogy. It's absolutely amazing. The first book is, all about like building the world, building Jude and Carden's relationship, and, the enemies to lovers starts coming in. So definitely pick this up. The next one that I want to talk about is One of the newest ones, it's The Dark King by Gina Maxwell. Now, this book is absolutely amazing. So it follows Bryn and Caden. Now, Bryn is a human. She lost her job in, I think, Wisconsin is where she's from. She wants to kind of just like let loose before she gets back on the, looking for a job. She's a workaholic. She doesn't have any family or anything like that. So she gets a letter in the mail from a mysterious person saying that she won a 3-day trip to Las Vegas at a place called Nightfall Casino. And so she goes. Whenever she gets there, she sees Caden, who is called the King of Vegas. And, they have like this locked eyes moment in the lobby, and then that was kind of it. She finds out that her room is double booked. So she gets the upgrade to the VIP penthouse suite. And, with all of the luxuries that come along, she decides to take her chance at the roulette table. In walks Caden, and I don't want to give away anything else, but it is a dark fantasy romance. Now, it is set in the modern world, but it does have fae. It has fae shifters who shift into wolves. It is a standalone, even though it is in a series. So you can read this book and be perfectly happy. You don't have to continue on. It is accidental marriage, forced proximity, fated mates. Some of the triggers, there is BDSM, there is violence, there is torture. So definitely make sure you check out those trigger warnings as well. So the next book that is on my series is Guild by Raven Kennedy. Now, this series is really good. It is a King Midas retelling. It is the Plated Prisoners series, which I'm pretty sure most of you have heard about. It is all over TikTok and the social media. But basically, you are following Orin. Orin is touched by the king, and she is all gold. She is caged up because she is one of the king's most prized possessions. And she's kind of okay with that at first. She's content because she's taken care of in a way. She wants to be with the king, but can't be with the king. So she's kind of in that interim. And as you go along, Orin does start coming out of her shell and whatnot, but then she ends up getting captured and taken by one of the enemies, and it just kind of goes from there. It is an enemies to lovers. There is spicy scenes. There definitely check the trigger warnings on this because I didn't make a list of the trigger warnings that I have over here, so definitely check those out. But it is so good. It does have fae in it, so it is a fantasy romance. You are in that type of setting, but definitely one worth checking out. The next one is going to be everyone's loved and hated probably, because it is Zodiac Academy by Carolyn Peckham and Susan Valenti. So this series is a hate to love series, is what I would like to say, because you start out, you're following Tori and Darcy in the first book, and it's, on their 18th birthday. Orion shows up, says that they are the lost princesses of, their fairy realm or their, realm in general. And in order for them to get their inheritance and all of this stuff, they have to go and attend Zodiac Academy, where they will learn their powers, they will learn their order, how to, kind of navigate this world in a sense. And whenever they show up, they're used to being in poverty. They're used to living, like where they're scraping by. I'm pretty sure Tori does some, like stealing and different things like that, some stuff that you wouldn't be okay with, but, she did. And so she gets to this Zodiac Academy, and from the beginning, the four celestial heirs, you have Darius, Seth, Max, and, who is the other one? Caleb. Caleb is always the good one, and I always forget about him because I actually love Caleb so much. But you have the four celestial heirs, and they have been raised their whole life that they are going to be the ones that take over the throne. Now, they find out that the Vega twins are back. They don't like it. The bullying starts. It's an enemies to lovers. The bullying is very bad. Like, it gets horrible in the first couple of books, but it does get better as the series goes on. There is assault. There is sexual assault. There is a lot of triggers in this series. I'm on book 7. I'm trying to power through it. I've kind of lost a little interest. It's in that little lull of a moment. But the final book comes out in December, so I'm pretty excited to see how everything is going to play out. I'm already 7 books in, so I'm definitely not quitting at this point. But if you get to book 3 and you don't like it, then I would definitely, not finish. If you get through book 3 and you don't like it, it's not going to get any better. The first book and second book are the hardest to get through. So if you can get through that, you like book 3, power on, it gets amazing. The next book is called The Captive Prince by C.S. Packett. I don't know how to say the writer's name, but basically it is about Damon. He is a warrior hero and the rightful heir to the throne whenever his half brother basically takes it from him and, takes his place on the throne and everything. And then Damon is captured by a rival or enemy territory, and he is basically a sex slave to that prince. It does have a lot of trigger warnings. Definitely go check out that list. There is rape and abuse in there. It is LGBTQ plus romance. It is enemies to lovers, forced proximity, BDSM, and even a very good slow burn. So if you like any of those, go check out The Captive Prince. The next one that I want to talk about actually is called The Brutal Boys of Everlake Prep. It's also by Carolyn Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. So this one is a reverse harem. It is slow burn. It is a bully romance. It is enemies to lovers. It is kind of on the same lines as Zodiac Academy, but with a different storyline and like a whole different plot. But the basis of it is, the same, because you have the 3 males who call themselves the Night Keepers. It is Cayenne, Blake, and I can't even think of the first one's or the last one's name. But basically, it's about a girl named Tatum who is dropped off at a boarding school by her father. She knows that it is set in folklore, is shrouded in mystery, and all of these different things. But what she finds out is definitely not what she expected. So if you like reverse harems and slow burns and enemies to lovers, and if you have read the Zodiac Academy, you might actually like, The Brutal Boys of Everlake Prep. Then the next one that I am going to talk about is called Shadow Kissed by Rebecca Garcia. So this book is an indie author, so she's not traditionally published, but it is the first book in her series, and it is about Sebastian and Olivia. I wanted to make sure. And because it's been a few months since I read it, but basically you're following Olivia. She lives in a town that is just south of the border of San Morte, which is the vampire, area. And everyone knows about vampires and such, but basically she doesn't know what's going on. She had a traumatic experience. All of a sudden, her mother is part of this guild. She runs the guild or whatnot that keeps the humans safe. And all of a sudden one night the vampires, attack. She is taken with her friend to the guild to be kept safe. And then all of a sudden, she is whisked away unconsciously, and she wakes up in Sebastian's home, and he's a vampire. And they're trying to find out why she is so wanted and everything. And the whole story progresses. And I tell you what, this book is very dark. It is kind of like a forced proximity. It's like a fated mates. You have a, arranged marriage in here. It's really, really good. Book 2 just came out in August. Book 3 comes out, I think, in November. But if you want a really good vampire, dark fantasy, paranormal romance that has spice, done absolutely well, and an amazing plot, pick up this book. So then the next one that I want to talk about, another special edition, but it is the Bargainer series by Laura Thalassa. This is the bookish box edition, so this is not the actual cover. The first book is called Rhapsodic. You are following a girl named Callie who is a siren. Her father ends up dead whenever she is young, so she ends up calling the Bargainer, which you don't want to do, making a deal with him and, earning a bead. The Bargainer will always collect. He is always known for that. But she ends up forming a friendship with the Bargainer. She ends up getting hundreds of beads that go up her arm. It's so unheard of because nobody has more than one favor out with the Bargainer. Her and the Bargainer start getting close. All of a sudden, he disappears one night, comes back into her life 7 years later. You find out his name is Desmond Flynn. He is the Night Court King. He is alpha and brutal and everything delicious. Like, take Rhysand from A Court of Thorns and Roses and just make him darker and sexier, and you have Desmond wrapped in a bow. So this was a great book. It's a trilogy with one novella in it. There's a mystery in here. You find out, why he was gone for 7 years, and you find out more about their friendship. So if you really like a fae romance, if you love A Court of Thorns and Roses, but you wanted it darker with a lot more plot, maybe a little bit spicier, this is an amazing book. Finally, the last book that I want to talk about is also by Laura Thalassa because I absolutely love her, which is the Four Horsemen series. So this is the first book, Pestilence. This is the Arcane Society set, so it's a naked hardcover, and this is not what it looks like, but you have Pestilence, War, Famine, and Death. They are all standalones, but I do suggest reading them in order because something that happens in this book may be mentioned in the next book, and you wouldn't fully understand what it is until you read the previous book. So the first one is Pestilence. Second one is War, third one is Famine, and then Death is the last one. And it is all about how they come to the world to end it, and they end up meeting these human women, and these women are fierce, they're strong, change their minds, and actually ends up saving the towns or the world that they're in. So it's a really good romance. It's not very thick, so you can get through it pretty quickly, but I absolutely loved the Four Horsemen series. Enemies to Lovers, Fated Love, Slow Burn. There are trigger warnings, so check out Laura Thalassa's website for that, so you can read about the trigger warnings for that and for the Bargainer series. But as for that, I do believe that was 10 books. And if you liked all of those, if you've read all of them, leave me a comment below. Let me know what you thought of them, or if you haven't read any of them, or there's one that caught your eye, let me know as well. Make sure that you like and subscribe to this video so you don't miss any of my content. My personal Instagram is in the description. My Goodreads, if you want to follow me there. Also, my Enchanted Rose Author Services Instagram is in the description as well. Find me on any one of those. Let's talk some books. But until next time, everyone, I hope you have a great day. Bye!